Okay. All right. First, so the goal of today is to walk through how we think about Bitcoin payments at Zaprite, what we're building and why, so you have a sense not just of what we're doing today, but where we're going in the future. First, our vision for Bitcoin to level set. The way I think about it, everybody at Zaprite thinks about it, is that the foundation to Bitcoin is the fixed supply. That's why people adopt Bitcoin. It's very natural for people to first adopt Bitcoin as a store of value, buy a little bit of Bitcoin for fiat, buy more Bitcoin for fiat. But once you understand why Bitcoin stores value, it becomes very logical to then accept it as payment. Today, we're in a world where people are starting to use Bitcoin as a reserve asset in an increasing form. The people who started to save in Bitcoin a few years ago, or 5 or 6 years ago, or 10 years ago, they're the ones that are now advancing out into the frontier to accept Bitcoin as payment. So we're in this current present where a very small minority are starting to use Bitcoin as a method of payment, but the dollar is still the unit of account. We're going to a future where we're not going to use stable coins for payment. We're not going to use dollars for payment. Everyone's going to use Bitcoin for payment, every business in the world practically. And Bitcoin will be the unit of account. That means that ribeyes will be priced in Bitcoin, tickets to Bitcoin park events will be priced in Bitcoin, gas at the gas station. So just so you have a sense of where we see things going. The thing that's limiting Bitcoin payments realistically is Bitcoin adoption. There are other things that are roadblocks to it, like tax policy, or like the volatility, or like the fear that the price of Bitcoin is going to go up forever. But realistically, the single thing that's limiting Bitcoin payments is we need more Bitcoiners. So the adoption of Bitcoin as a payments rail is downstream of someone first understanding why they should ever want to have any Bitcoin at all. What it comes down to, though, is density. It takes one person to buy Bitcoin, but if you want to pay someone in Bitcoin or they want to accept Bitcoin, a trade takes two. And so if you accept that there are only maybe 1% of people in the world that understand Bitcoin, you need two to trade. And if that 1% turns to 2%, turns to 3%, turns to 10%, the ability for Bitcoin to emerge as a trading economy grows with adoption, and specifically the density of it. But commerce is also key to adoption. There's a comment here from a doctor that I have a lot of respect for, who doesn't yet understand Bitcoin, but she says, "I like the idea of an independent currency, but until I can use Bitcoin to put gas in my car and food on the table, I'm out." It's a very logical stance. There's only a certain small minority of people that can look at Bitcoin, read the Bitcoin standard, read Gradually Then Suddenly, and have the vision for why everyone else in the future is going to demand it and accept it. The vast majority of everyone is going to come to understand Bitcoin when they see it used as money, where it's not a vision leap or a logical leap. And so it's a key part of education. But there's a reality baked in there that the market for Bitcoin payments in 2026 is that 99%, and that's being generous, of people are uninterested in Bitcoin. So that's the first blocker. But then out of that 99%, you have consumers and you have business owners. And we at Zaprite focus on Bitcoin businesses and the customers of Bitcoin businesses. What do I mean by that? We focus on Rod in Bitcoin Park. What tools does he need because he has a bunch of members? Well, some of those members are going to be the most logical next adopters of Bitcoin payments. Unchained has a set of customers. Their customers are going to be the most logical set of next adopters. But at that center of the nexus, whether it's Bitcoin Park or Unchained or Cold Card or OnRamp or Casa or any other business that's focused on Bitcoin mining, the Bitcoin miners, that is where the greatest overlap exists of people who are willing to accept Bitcoin with a customer segment that also want to pay in it. And this is the heuristic of how we think about Bitcoin payments. It's not enough to enable. You actually have to drive volume to deliver value. and focus on the product verticals where that overlap is greatest. When somebody turns on Bitcoin payments, and we have some people that are Bitcoin only, to each their own, realistically, when a business turns on Bitcoin payments, their sales in Bitcoin are going to be something like 5% and grow to 10%. And they are going to grow faster than the fiat rails. But if they are zero, that's a bad customer experience. And someone that does not understand Bitcoin and have a customer base that is willing to pay in it, it is a setup for failure. And so we focus on the verticals where we actually believe, based on a very good understanding of the market, where that overlap is. And so what does that mean at Zaprite? So on the left, this is an example of our checkout. It is a unified checkout. In this case, I've got Bitcoin first, or Lightning first, and then Bitcoin. But the thing is, it's on an equal playing field. We give tools so that economically, without having to have a conversation, our customers can communicate that they want Bitcoin. They can put a discount on Lightning, or if somebody bought a ticket to this event, Rod put a 4% premium in fiat. It allows the customer to communicate what they want and to properly communicate the cost of what rail they're using. But we're also non-custodial. On the fiat side, we're not an intermediary. On the Bitcoin side, we're not an intermediary. But we're building this for Bitcoiners because that's where the greatest overlap exists. And so we support, not just are we not non-custodial, but we support non-custodial solutions. People can get paid straight to a cold card. They can get paid straight to a non-custodial Lightning node. But we also support things like Strike and OpenNode and custodial services. We're meeting people where they are without needing to insert Zaprite as an unnecessary financial intermediary. Now, there may be a future world where there's value to building processing on top, but that shouldn't be the default. It doesn't need to be the default. And we're building because we know who our customer is. And then it comes down to the products, because it matches the technical side with, we have an API, and then we build things like event tickets, because the events are where there are Bitcoiners going to Bitcoin events, and they're willing to pay in Bitcoin. We focus on invoices. The mining industry oftentimes uses our API with our invoices, and then that informs everything else that we build. We have our API, event tickets, invoices. Where do we need to build next to meet the Bitcoiners where they are? So today, and this is where I'll talk about where we're going into the future. Today we have those commerce tools that I just listed on the prior page. The one big strategic item that we are focused on in 2026 is focusing on the individual. We're going to be building a P2P app, or we're in the process of it now. I'll talk about the timeline, but we are going to make it, just as we've made it easier for businesses to accept Bitcoin as payment, our goal is to make every individual, put them in a position where they can both receive Bitcoin more easily from peer-to-peer, pay peers, and then we'll connect that in the future to our commerce solutions to make the actual process of spending Bitcoin to buy goods and services easier. This was a great quote from Giacomo Zucco just 2 days ago, so I inserted it last minute. Basic bitch applications. Yes, we need builders, all right, but not for fancy, novel, shining, quote, use cases, for trivial, boring, basic bitch ones, which are still shitty. Okay? So, why focus on peer-to-peer? It still sucks sending Bitcoin between friends. And at Zaprite, as we were looking out at the problems of merchants, we're like, well, we don't have any relationship with the people actually paying. So if we don't, then we're limited in the degree to which we can solve pain points that businesses have. And that unlocked a realization on our side, well, individuals paying each other in Bitcoin after they go to dinner or paying a babysitter or sharing an Airbnb at a conference, that process still sucks. So let's focus on that because it's analogous to what we're already building today, and we're in a very strong position to do that in an efficient way. So the reasons are P2P payments are upstream from B2C payments. It's the lightest weight form of commerce. It's a specialized form of commerce. It's a commerce template. You need to have an application that's dedicated to, not just sending $5 to friends, but potentially paying a share of rent, thousands of dollars, doing that securely and doing it in a way that is low friction. There are limited solutions that exist today. The problem is not easily solved by individuals. I think this is something that confuses people, and I'll talk about that more. And then, if we are successful in solving a problem for you as an individual paying your peers, we will be able to connect buyers directly to sellers. So what is the peer-to-peer problem in Bitcoin? It is that if you have 20 friends and each of them has 6 different wallets, whenever you want to send your friend money, you do not know what wallet they use. You do not know which wallets are compatible in the sense of if you're sending $2,000, say, for a share of rent or for a split of an Airbnb, is your friend willing to accept Lightning? Can they accept Lightning? Does their Lightning node have the capacity to be able to do that? And so there's always this song and dance, and Stefan talked about on one of his podcasts, when someone wants to be paid, it's like, well, where do you want to be paid, Lightning or Bitcoin? Send me a Bitcoin address, send me a Lightning invoice. And then the other thing is, what if wallets change? What if someone's lost an app? How do you know? And that's where a P2P app comes in. Why is every wallet not a P2P app? For the same reason that every bank is not a P2P app. That being able to abstract the layer of identity and map either banks to a Venmo or wallets to a P2P app will allow you to be able to send friends without needing to know where they're receiving funds. When you're sending money on Venmo, you have no idea what bank your friend uses, nor do you care. All you need to know is that you're pointing at the right place. In the fiat world, P2P apps are walled gardens. In the Bitcoin world, and this is foundational to how we've built Zaprite non-custodially, where we are not a financial intermediary to transactions. We make it easy for our merchants to connect wallets and custodians to Zaprite, but we are not in that financial flow. We also do not need to be in the financial flow of helping solve this peer-to-peer problem and doing it in a way where we can meet every consumer where they are. Connecting a custodial wallet or a non-custodial wallet, a cold card or a Strike, a Lightning node, or using something like Strike to be a custodial Lightning service. The other reason why every wallet will not be a P2P app is that network effects scale exponentially. So if you took one wallet, say Strike, Strike's had 2 million downloads, but say 100,000 users, 3 wallets with 100,000 users. If each individual silo were sending money to just their customers, it scales exponentially. So if you put 2 of those wallets together, it would be 4x. If you put 3 of those wallets together, it would be 9x the network effect of a single wallet. And so a lot of wallets and custodial services have this ability to send money to their peers that use that wallet. But there's still the problem that you don't know if your peer uses it and you have to communicate, but also the network effect is smaller. So how is Zaprite creating a P2P solution? Similar to our current solution, people will be able to connect different wallets to Zaprite. They will be able to discover their friends, so we will facilitate discoverability, management of contacts, the actual facilitation of payments mapped directly to those use cases of you sending money to your peers. The security around that, because financial applications need to be security first. If you're going to connect a wallet to an app to send money and you're sending real money, $2,000, you not only need to know it's going to the right place, is the person the right person, and what happens if someone gets access to my phone, And so it very much is, even though we are building this in a pseudonymous way, because one of the things we talked about as a team, something like this would not work if we needed to know that Matt paid Marty, because that is a friction, but also we don't want to know that. So we're building it pseudonymously. But what it allows is one P2P user to connect with a friend, to know that they can pay either Lightning or Bitcoin. Someone might only accept Lightning, someone might only accept on-chain, and not to have any external communication with that person. This is an example just to capture the idea of somebody using Strike and having the option to pay their peer using a speed wallet on Lightning or going directly to a cold card if they're paying on-chain. That's what we're trying to capture the vision of. The past, and I've got my good friend somewhere here, Dave Hogan. Dave and I ran and will be continuing to run the Houston Bitcoin meetup, but I take all the money. Dave paid for barbecue one day. He needed to be reimbursed. And this is literally 6 months ago. And this is the problem. It's like, hey, where do you want me to pay you? He first sent me a Bitcoin address, and then he sent me a Lightning invoice. This was an actual text between us about 7 months ago. In the future, where we want to get to is, if this is me paying Dave, I just have my friend Dave there. I'm using either Strike or Alby. I can push a payment to him without having to have any conversation. Separately, on the right side, he could push me a request, and then I have this experience on the left. So we are trying to simplify that. The key thing, though, to this working is not being a walled garden. This app is going to make it easier to send money to your peers, to receive money from your peers. But if you are on Venmo or if you are on Cash App, your friend needs to have Cash App to receive it. Now, Cash App on the Bitcoin side is starting to enable some capabilities like Lightning address in between Strike and Cash App. Cash App is itself a peer-to-peer app. This is how we think Cash App will build their peer-to-peer app when they're ready in a broader way. But you do not have to have Zaprite to pay someone who's on Zaprite. You can share this link, and then rather than having this text message here, there's a web link where someone can click, access their wallet, not in-app, and pay it. So a user who does not have the app will be able to pay a user who does, and will even make that experience better. And so quickly, because I'm a little bit over, but why is P2P strategic to broader payments? If we perfect the ways that peers pay other peers, then we can connect consumers directly to sellers and marketplaces. We can perfect the buying experience. What does that mean? It means one-click buys. It means able to authorize, enable, and have auto payments in Bitcoin, which is a huge friction point for anybody, as an example, that has subscriptions or memberships because of the churn. Tap to pay using the Zaprite app, online bill pay. And then, and this is something that's often overlooked, it removes critical pain points for sellers at scale. There's no good way to do refunds in Bitcoin. Why? Because in an automated way, you don't know how to point a payment back. In the fiat world, you reverse a payment. In the Bitcoin world, whether it's a Lightning transaction or an on-chain transaction, the money actually has to be sent back. You have to have a destination to do that, and you have to have it in a way that is automated, that can tie to a sale. And that will be a downstream benefit of this. And then again, for the merchant side, to enable auto payments. So if you're interested in this, the goal is to have our closed beta available. Don't hate me, Nate, but like sometime around the end of April, closed beta for friends. You can go to paymeandbitcoin.com to get on the wait list. We want a closed beta of friends. This is not a product announcement. We want people that we know that are intimate with these problems to help us get feedback. And then we will have an open beta later in the summer. So if you're interested in helping us refine this, improve it, please reach out to us. Paymeandbitcoin.com. You can sign up for the waitlist or just come talk to us because we need your help, and that's where we're going.